Bro, I spent the past 2 weeks playing nothing but Saints Row games. With Call of Duty in between, obviously, but nothing but Saints Row. And this week specifically, I chose Saints Row 4 and Gat Out of Hell to be my specific mains for some reason. Now, recently I released a video titled Saints Row Reboot Made Me Appreciate Saints Row 4. And it did. You know, Saints Row 5, it had its ups, it had its downs, but one thing I can say is with Saints Row 4, I can say I had a lot more fun and entertainment from that game than I did the newest one, which is sad. But this week I decided to play 4 and Gat Out of Hell to make sure that my statement was still valid. Plus, out of every game in the series up until the reboot, these two got the most shit out of any other Saints Row game. And I kinda also wanted to see if the hate was really deserved. So as y'all know, Saints Row 4 was a fucking trip. Like, even though it didn't introduce all the goofy shit we have to deal with in the series, it didn't make the shit better. It amplified it. Saints Row 3 introduced the goofy shit. Saints Row 4 amplified everything. Now, me, I had no idea what I was getting into when I first bought this game back in, like, what, 2014, 2015? But the intro to the game did a very good job of setting the tone. The beginning of the game opens up with you, Shaundi, Pierce, and Aisha going to some country in the Middle East, stopping a terrorist attack by an antagonist from the previous game, stopping a missile from hitting Washington, and then becoming President of the United States, Zero Dark 30 style. Like, they literally tell you, yo, B, don't take none of this shit seriously. This game's about to be fucked. They literally tell you that at the beginning of the game. 5 years later, you're President of the United States and you're about to give a speech, and all of a sudden, boom, aliens show up, invade America, invade the planet, and just start kidnapping folks. From then on out, the story is set in motion. Throughout the rest of the game, you and the remaining Saints spend the rest of your times in a spaceship and a simulation figuring out different ways to stop Zinyak and his Zin Empire. You save everybody from their own simulated nightmares, you find out Johnny Gat's alive, and then eventually you all band together to try and stop Zinyak. That's basically a quick summary of the story. The story for Saints Row 4 was extremely ridiculous. Like, there's no question about that. You go from the streets of Stillwater in Saints Row 2 to fighting aliens as President of the United States in Saints Row 4. It's completely stupid, and I get that, but something I really liked about Saints Row 4 is that it kept me entertained. When I first got this game when it came out back in, 14, I found myself looking at the story like it was goofy as fuck, but enjoying the content that I got. Gameplay wise, that is. Between super sprinting in between cars, super jumping over tall to short buildings, gliding over the streets of Steelport, gliding through the city. I had a lot of fun with this shit. The ground pound, I had a lot of fun with the movements and the game mechanics. Like, in a weird way, I felt like I was playing a Saints Row version of the original prototype, both in movement mechanics and in combat. Like, I never really realized it until this week, but I think Saints Row 4 did borrow a lot of mechanics from the original prototype. Shit, that might be a reason why I enjoy the gameplay so much. As wacky and out of place the gameplay was in Saints Row 4, it was still fun and enjoyable. I think one of the best memories I have from that game was that mission, and even though I feel how I feel about the story mode, there's a mission where you and Johnny, you went to go rescue Johnny, and it turned into like a side scroller, kind of like Streets of Rage back in the day, them little arcade machines, and y'all just going through the wave, trying to save Aisha. It's wacky as fuck, but it was fun to look at and fun to play. Saints Row 4 was just Saints Row 3 on acid, and on the right occasions, I found myself playing it a lot more and enjoying a lot more than I did the Saints Row reboot. And then we get Gat Out of Hell. Now, with Gat Out of Hell, I always felt like it was one of those games that was like a DLC idea that turned into its own thing. Like, y'all know how Saints Row 4 was supposed to be like Enter the Dominatrix DLC for Saints Row 3, then turned into its own game? I thought they did the same shit with Gat Out of Hell. Because just like 4, it's wacky as fuck. It's shorter, but it's wacky as fuck, but entertaining. So, just like Saints Row 4, Gat Out of Hell sets the tone for its game through the intro. In the beginning, they're having a birthday party for the boss, and somebody decides to pull out a Ouija board as like a little, you know, some little kiddie shit. And then boom, one thing happens, something leads to another. The boss gets kidnapped through a portal in hell, and so Johnny and Kinsey have to go through the portal to save the boss from Satan himself. Now, throughout the remainder of the story, Johnny Gat and Kinzie team up to not only save the boss from Satan, but also preventing Satan from forcing a marriage between his daughter and the boss. So, Get Out of Hell basically copied Saints Row 4's mechanics to the fucking T, right? It's damn near the same shit. But there are slight differences. You know how in Saints Row 4 you can kind of glide? In Saints Row Get Out of Hell you can fly, but it's a little different. You know, you get wings because you're in hell, and you can fly for a certain period of time, but then you stall out and fall if you're too low, or if you just go for too long a distance. It's basically the same shit as the flight mechanics in Saints Row 4, but it looks cooler. And just like Saints Row 4, the game gives you different abilities that you can use in combat, whether it's a super stomp, an aura boost, a minion dispenser, or whatever the fuck it's called, and an energy blast. Relatively same gameplay, but different interpretations. One thing I can say, I enjoyed Get Out of Hell's gameplay more than I did 4's. Even though it basically took the mechanic and rewrote the shit and did exactly what 4 did, I like the fact that, for one, you're playing as Johnny Gat, and two, I think the melee is a little different in a better way, in a good way compared to 4. I like how in Get Out of Hell, when you're engaging in hand-to-hand combat, Johnny pulls out twin daggers and he just goes to work on a motherfucker. It's just like that. He's punching, he's stabbing, he's slicing, he's cutting. And I like the animations that they do in Get Out of Hell better than 4. Not saying that the animations weren't good in 4, but to me it's a lot more appealing in Get Out of Hell. Like, I'd rather watch Johnny dice someone up with like 12-inch blades than duke a motherfucker with the hands. It's more appealing to me. Also, something else I kind of like about Get Out of Hell compared to 4 was the gunfights. And it wasn't because of the shootouts themselves, like getting into a shootout, if you get your notoriety too high, it turns into one big brawl in the street, one big gunfight, one little war. No, it's not that. When you get your notoriety too high, the waves disappear, and then this giant demon warrior teleports out of nowhere, sword and shield. Now you got like a mini boss fight going on, and he has his own little health bar, and you gotta dodge all of his attacks while also shooting at him and attacking him, trying to lower his guard. And after every like third of health, every fourth of health depletes, he drops health, and you get to snag that real quick before he attacks you again. It's fun. It's like a little boss fight within the firefights. Now, don't get me wrong, Saints Row 3's firefights are still technically my favorite in the series, because when the notoriety does get high, it's like a little war in the streets between your clique and the gang or cops that you pissed off. But Get Out of Hell's interpretation of that is not better, but it's just as fun to me in its own way. It's to the point that I would purposely piss off the police and see how much it takes for me to get my notoriety all the way high, just so I could have an excuse to fight these motherfuckers. Like, it was fun as shit. Now, with Get Out of Hell, obviously I knew, seeing how it's a continuation of 4, they ain't gonna take this shit seriously. It's about to be goofy as fuck. It's about to have all types of stupid shit. I knew that when I first played the game, right? When I first got it. I just didn't know how far they were gonna take it. Actually, no, I take that back. That was my reaction to Saints Row 4. Because with Saints Row 4, it was what, after 3? 3 was kind of weird, so I figured, fuck it. 4 is going to be weird too. I didn't know they was going to go as far as they did, but it was what it was. Come Get Out of Hell, I was so used to the shit that I pulled off in 4. I figured that, fuck it, they probably going to do the same shit in this one, so I didn't really go into the game thinking I was going to take it seriously, so I kind of left a little better with Get Out of Hell than I did 4. But even with Get Out of Hell, they still took it a step further, because this one has a fucking musical number. I think that's the main thing I didn't like about this shit. It had a fucking musical number. It was stupid, alright? It was weird. It was kind of cool the first time, maybe, sort of, but it was still kind of goofy. But nonetheless, that's not the point I'm trying to make in this video. The point I'm trying to make is, even though Get Out of Hell and Saints Row 4 was goofy as hell, it was still entertaining. You know, it still did something for me that the Saints Row reboot couldn't do. Story-wise, for both Get Out of Hell and 4, they have no place in the Saints Row series. I believe that if they were their own games outside of the series with a completely different cast of characters in a completely different world, these games would have been taken a lot more seriously, or they would have had a better reception, because it's not attached to a series with gangbanging and street shit. These games were dumb but fun. They didn't do what they were supposed to do for me as a Saints Row fan, but they did what they were supposed to do for me as a gamer. They kept me entertained when I needed them to, and I will give them their respect for that. I just wish the reboot did the same. But nonetheless, that's all I got for y'all. This video was kind of random. I was supposed to do a Predator Hunting Grounds vid, and after that I was supposed to do Destroy All Humans Part 2 remake. Some shit like that, man. But you know, I was feeling this a little more. I was a lot more enthusiastic for this one, so I figured, fuck it, why not get this one out the way. But I'm going back on the list I made for myself. So I hope y'all enjoyed this. I hope y'all enjoyed this episode of Reggie TV. I'll see y'all on the next one. I'm out.